I stepped on campus, and very quickly I saw, kind of how left. I never really thought of myself as super political. I mean, I knew I was political and I was interested in politics. I liked history. I liked talking about political issues and current events. But it was really on campus that I was kind of faced with an alternative point of view that I really wanted to speak about. And so one of the first things that happened is I walked on campus, I picked up the UCLA student newspaper, the Daily Bruin, and there was an editorial comparing the then Prime Minister of Israel, Ariel Sharon, this is 2001, to Adolf Eichmann, as in like the facilitator of the Holocaust. And so I walked into the Daily Bruin offices and I said, "Can I write a counter to this?" I would have been 16 at the time. I said, "Can I write a counter to this?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure, write a counter." So I wrote a counter. And then a couple of weeks later, they came to me and they said, "We have a perspective column from somebody, and you're the only person who's on the right that we've ever heard of. And so can you write the countervailing point of view?" So that turned into every couple of weeks, we would do like a point counterpoint column in the Daily Bruin. And then I applied for and got a kind of regular columnist position, just writing my own column at the Daily Bruin as the token conservative on the paper. It was very well read. And then after doing that for maybe a year, so I was 17, I turned to my dad and I said, "You've been reading my stuff. Do you think my stuff is good enough to go in a real paper, not just a college paper?" And he said, "Yeah, actually I do. Let me do some research." So he looked up online a syndicator, like who places columns in papers. And so the place he came up with was Creator Syndicate. Creator Syndicate was the syndicator at the time of people on the left like Molly Ivins and people on the right like David Limbaugh. Michelle Malkin was big at Creators at the time. And so my dad gave me their address, and there was sort of a form that you could just send in your columns. So I sent in my columns cold. And about 3 weeks later, they called, and they didn't know really how old I was. And so they said, "We want you to write." They knew I was young. They didn't know how young I was. They said, "We want you to write a weekly column for us." So they were going to syndicate the column, which means they were going to put it in a bunch of different papers at one time. So 10, 12. Now I think it runs in maybe 150 or 200 papers every week. So I've been writing a syndicated column since I was 17 years old.
Wow.
And pretty much everything dumb. I don't say everything. I say dumb stuff fairly routinely, but most of the dumb stuff that I've said was between the ages of maybe 17 and 24, which is why I say like people make bad decisions at that time. You have more radical viewpoints when you're younger. You tend to moderate a little bit, at least I wouldn't say moderate as much as become more realistic about the world as you get older. But yeah, so I was writing a syndicated column when I was 17. My first book came out when I was 20 about left-wing bias on college campuses called Brainwashed. That came out in 2003, 2004.